Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Welcome to the Friday night edition of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. So proud to be here with all of you and R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection coming up next. Yes, it's a wild night of woo, and your questions will be needed. So you can start typing them out right now. Please put them in capital letters, and I will get them to Keith ASAP. We want to say hello to each and every one of you that is hanging out with us tonight, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, SJ with a silver, Tim Mothman and his goatee with a bronze medal tonight. Hi, Chris 716, Robert Lamoth, Mark Sanchez in his Hawaiian shirts are here. Mark will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. We got Brown Dwarf and Puck Elf. Good to see you both. Jacqueline D, how you doing? Welcome to SOR Chat. As we continue on with our roll call here, Barb Madison, Corey, Karen in the Woo Train, Eternity, Eternal, and Luscious Jewels. Nice to see you all. Number 72 in your program, starting at center ice tonight from Stockholm, Sweden, Lars Jansson. He's got 86 points this season so far. He's having a hell of a year. Really is having a hell of a year. All right, continuing on here with our roll call. And Forrest Louie, nice to see you. And who's next up on the list? Well, it's Les Paul Holland strumming away in Australia. We love you, Les. Hope you're having a great day. And Dragonfly, good to see you. And Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Continuing on with our roll call here. Millennium, my man, how's the mullet doing? Please give me an update. Moving on down, W. David Page, thanks for joining us. Ginger Turtle has returned. Ginger Turtle will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Jiro, how you doing? And I think I said Brown Dwarf a little bit earlier, but that's okay. If I didn't, I can always say it again. I can. I'm that guy. I totally am that guy. Susan Lawrence of Indiana. Yep, good to see you. Operation Shutdown, Vanessa Gold, Sweet Donna C. Nice to see you all. And Rock and Rory, good to have you here. Hi, Laura Lobbs. And Jessica, always a pleasure to have you here. Hello and good evening to Jennifer Patterson. And who else do we have? Susan Alloway. Algaray over on Twitch, nice to see you. Jennifer. Dirt Road, nice to have you back. Aloha, Dave. And who's next here? Mama Susan. Science Melinda, good afternoon to you. And we're caught up on roll call so far. We really are. More people will shuttle on in as the time rolls on. Want to remind you, you only have 5 days. That's 5 days in order to get your VIP tickets for the 3rd annual SOR fan party. We're heading to Reno, Nevada at the Silver Legacy Casino Resort. And we want to see all of you there. Yeah, you can get your tickets at info@spacedoutradio.com, info@spacedoutradio.com, and that's just the way we do it. And B, Susan Cano, welcome, both of you. We very much appreciate it. Let's get the radio side going here. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We're going on the Woo train tonight, taking a little trip on the ET Connection with R Keith Andrews that we do the first Friday of every month. And we're glad all of you are here as we await. There he is, Bill WD-40, currently lubing us up for tonight's show. You never want to go into a show rigid. We always need it nice and smooth, and that's what Bill does. He lubes it up for us. Michael Fontaine, how you doing? And C. David Clark, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us. We are in the middle of roll call. Yes, Luscious Jewels, peak woo is predicted. We always like that. All right, don't forget, the Super Chat is open. It is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you to those who are going to be with us tonight. And, oh, Jackie Harmon, you're so funny. Barbara Mora, welcome back. Man, we're in for a good night tonight. I cannot wait to get started. And we're just around the corner here. 5 seconds. High Plant Watering Citizen, welcome to SOR Chat. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. The old Navy the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Yes, it's that time of the month where we turn up the woo to past full. We are going into extra woo tonight. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection will be here momentarily. Then in hour number 3, Steve Stockton joins us from Among the Missing. Followed up by that, Nicole Sakic is filling in for an assignment covering Courtney Marcassani on UFO Court. All right, let's get right to it. Our main man of the night, R. Keith Andrews, is here as he comes in each and every month to join us for the ET Connection. Now, Keith is a lifelong experiencer who has had extraterrestrial contact literally since childbirth. Yeah. Now, he's not involved in the UFO community. He doesn't really know who the players are, nor does he care. What he cares about is people, helping people understand the experiences they're having. And this is why we love it when Keith is on Spaced Out Radio, helping us out each and every month here on the show. One of our most popular guests, R. Keith Andrews. Always a pleasure to have you here, my man.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I cannot believe how long this has been going on.
Well, the public still craves their R. Keith Andrews, so we got to keep it going, man. Don't blame me. Blame the public.
Well, as the saying goes, I don't really question a whole lot. I just go with what I can.
I love it, man. I love how humble you are. I really do. It's never changed from you. And I'm very excited again, Keith. You and I haven't seen each other in a couple of years, but very excited to see you down in Reno, Nevada for our 3rd annual fan party next month, May 10th through 12th at the Silver Legacy Casino Resort. Cannot wait to hang out with you again.
Yeah, that's going to be a rush. I haven't quite figured out how you're going to do the show that day. That Friday. That'll be the first Friday. Or is that the first Friday? That can't be the first Friday of the month, can it?
No, it'll be the 2nd. But we're going to have a fun time. We're going to have a bunch of guests up there. You're going to come up as well. And it's always a great time. Keith, what do you love about this field?
Honestly, I'm still working on that. But no, you meet a lot of interesting people. In my case, people does not just rely to humans. But I find it fascinating that so many people are so caught up so involved in this industry, and yet everybody's still waiting for a government to tell them that it's real. It's a fascinating question from my end. It's kind of like, in my eyes, it's kind of like debating whether or not the government's ever going to tell you gravity works.
Okay, so you've got to know a number of people over the years and have got to know their stories, their interactions with extraterrestrials. You've heard them laugh, you've heard them cry, you've heard them be angry. What's the best part and what's the hardest part of doing what you do in counseling people?
The best part is when it dawns on them that, oh my gosh, I'm not nuts. This really did happen. Doesn't help a lot in some ways, but that relief that they get is the best part of it. The part that is the most disappointing for me is the number of people that lay claims. And I'm not looking for proof as far as photographs and what have you go. It's when people lay claims that they have no functional ability to back up. One of the reasons I refuse to call myself an expert is because I don't know enough. And yet I hear people call themselves experts and they don't know the first thing about what they're dealing with, as evidenced by the fact that they can't answer the questions.
Okay, so when you get people who finally have that eye-opening moment where it dawns on them that they aren't crazy, they do have this going on. It's not just dreams, it's not just nightmares, it's not just imagination. What goes on with them? How much of an emotional release is that?
I've had people literally break down in tears over the fact that they weren't actually imagining it. I mean, it's either tears or you get this immediate swell of fear that you gotta get through. It's like, oh my gosh, what are they doing to me? And am I even safe? And this is something humans have a tendency of fearing very much for their lives. Really misinformed, courtesy of a number of people, but Hollywood did an absolute phenomenal job on people with a brilliant show, with a brilliant series called V. It's had decades-long impacts. And people are still caught up in the idea that reptilians are taking over Earth. Not going to happen.
What is going to happen?
Mankind will eventually wake up. If you look at the bar scene on Star Wars, in time, in all fairness, I'd be really surprised if it happened in less than 50 years. But that kind of an interaction is going to end up happening if man doesn't blow himself back to the Stone Age.
I was talking to a friend of mine recently who is a lifelong ET contactee, much like you, who said her contact is way down, and that is extremely abnormal. But the message that she is getting is that the ETs are not having a good time on the planet right now because of all the fear of war and potential nuclear armament and all this kind. What are you hearing about that?
Well, they're certainly wound up over the potentiality of nuclear war, but I've been reassured that as far as a global nuclear war goes, humans really have virtually nothing to worry about. Okay, a nuclear strike, certainly. Okay, certainly could happen. And for the people it lands on, my heart goes out to the ones left behind. But I'm talking a world nuclear war. They'll shut it down. because they're here to protect the planet, not the people. And a full-scale nuclear war will cause a problem for the planet.
Okay, so are there species out there that do give a care about the people as well as the planet?
Oh, there's a number of. Oh yeah, there are a number of species. The Sprothosians they came here literally to intercept Tekleg and to provide backup for humans. But they're not here to trade military weaponry. They'll use their own in defense of mankind, but they won't trade it or turn it over to humans. So I will say they'll stand side by side, but you got to realize these guys are 7.5 to 8.5 feet tall. So it's more like shoulder to hip.
Okay. So with that being said, what do the ETs want from us as humans and humanity in general?
Humanity in general brings one heck of a bonus to the consortium. Mankind has a staggering capacity to take the most logical situation, the most logic-based problem, go completely the wrong direction and still land on their feet. There is a race coming in that is on its way here. Now, it won't get here for another 100 years or so. That the ETs are literally, on the whole, hoping mankind will wake up early enough, because so far none of the off-world races have succeeded to stop these guys, and they're hoping that mankind can pull their own act together, because they're betting on mankind's ability to jump to a weird answer to come to the solution.
Are we smart enough? Are we smart enough to come to that conclusion?
Smart enough, the answer is yes. Wise enough is another question. And that's where the fear comes in. See, mankind looks at a one world government and they translate that into dictatorship. That's not what a one world government is. Okay. But mankind has two things going against it. One, on the whole, mankind still thinks a one world government says dictator. Okay. Two, they've got the whole science of gravity and wormhole navigation backwards. And as soon as they figure that one out, I mean, years ago they were handed the theory of relativity, only they couldn't piece it together. And in all fairness, it was Einstein that figured it out. But what he relayed as the theory of relativity, and it's a perfectly functional mathematical equation, isn't the theory of relativity. It is simply a mathematical equation regarding to one aspect of science. Okay. The equation that he actually gave them, and no, I cannot prove it. Sorry, somebody else gets that job, was 1 + 1 = 3. It's not math. Okay, but the scientists in Einstein's time couldn't piece it together. And I don't think anybody's looking for it. But once they piece that together, mankind will have access to abilities that they haven't even considered an option on. You couple that with the hybridization program, and there's a lot mankind brings to the table.
Okay. If there's a lot that we bring to the table to move forward, what are the ETs wanting from us? How do we get there?
Get along. Oddly enough, that is literally what they're asking for. it's not so much for you guys not to fear them, although they would appreciate you not looking to them to go, are you going to come down and fix our problem? Because they're not here to fix your problem. Okay. But they would like people, they do await the time when people will literally look at each other and go, oh, you're a human from another part of the world. Welcome aboard. Now let's see what we can work with. This is what they're waiting for. This is what they're asking of you guys, is to simply accept each other as equals, regardless of your station in life. Ultimately, that's what it boils down to.
That makes a lot of sense. And Keith, for everybody who is wondering, who the hell is this guy? What is he all about? This has been a lifelong quest for you, passing on messages, not only in the paranormal world, but in the supernatural world as well. Do you find that taking on people's problems is very difficult for you? How do you carry that stress that people put on you?
Well, I found out if I keep it, if I hold it, I run into an interesting problem. So I end up with heart attacks and strokes, that sort of thing. So the short answer is I write. Okay, I've got both the Elderbachian Chronicles, the Races of the Worlds, and of course the newsletter, the stream. I literally write and I talk, and I just gave up trying to bite my tongue. As you found out the one day when I was asked the wrong question on your show years back now. I'm sure you remember the gentleman that asked about why he should believe me.
Right. Well, that question comes up a couple times a year.
Yeah, pretty much. Although I did learn from you, and I don't answer it quite the same way. I'm not exactly known for being subtle.
No, subtlety would not be your middle name. That I do know. Overall, though, Keith, when you break the news to someone that they are an ET contactee, how do you know? What are the signs you look for?
Well, the short answer is I can feel it. Because if I'm talking to somebody and what they're telling me doesn't feel right, then I will simply go, there's something, you're overlooking something. Now, if they get defensive, right off the bat, it's like, no, I know this is absolutely the way it happened. If they start getting really argumentative, really defensive about it, that just corroborates the fact that they already know that what they're relaying isn't accurate. I don't blame them, in all fairness. It's one heck of a jump to go from, I think I might be out of my mind, to, oh my gosh, this isn't just my imagination. The one thing I won't do is usually I won't tell somebody that what they're doing is wrong, as it were. I did that one day, and it literally cost me a sight on a radio show. So I do try and learn from my miscalculations, but the thing is, the fear of the unknown is what drives a lot of people into a tailspin. All I try and do is point out that, look, this happens often enough. It's no longer a question of coincidence or luck. Like, I love people, and I've heard people go, I really want to be abducted by somebody. I don't care who. And I'll tell you, this is just a disaster. Because some of the races out there, whether they're supposed to or not, will quite happily have you for dinner. The unfortunate part is you're the main course.
Yeah, you never want to be the main course. You never do.
No, I always find that annoying. Yeah.
Oh, I can see why. Keith, we got about 4.5 minutes here before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. R Keith Andrews, and the ET Connection continues on Spaced Out Radio. As you do your job in telling whether or not people have had contact, how many times have you had it where people are not having contact but may have some sort of mental disability, shall we say?
Well, I don't have a disability, but ratio-wise, I'd say probably, you're going to love this one, I would lay odds that of the ones I actually talk to, probably 30% of them are essentially looking for the spotlight. And they're very easy to spot. Okay, one of the biggest giveaways is they're looking for the spotlight is the moment somebody the other day mentioned the Fae were uniting and aiming to take over the world. And I'm like, not going to happen. They don't want it. But, about, I would guess, and I really haven't kept numbers, probably 30% are looking for a shot in the spotlight. About 10% of them are literally going out of their mind, trying to figure out what's going on with their world because it's been turned right upside down. It's one thing to believe in off-worlders. It's another to stand toe-to-toe with them. And that's where it throws people for a loop. I mean, yourself that it can be a little disconcerting all of a sudden getting faced with the reality of, this actually is happening. Because I remember the look on your face when one of the first shows that we did, when I told you flat out you were being listened in on.
That's right.
Not often I get to see you look.
Oh, I remember that.
That's not often that I get to see you caught off guard. Although the phone call, I think, was an even better one, personally.
Which phone call? The one where I called you with on the night of Carl?
Yeah.
Or the phone call where you were actually talking to the ETs in my backyard?
The one where I was talking to the ETs in your backyard.
Oh, we should tell that story here, because for people who may not know, I've had a couple of interactions with an alien that I named Carl. The first one was on April 20th, 2015, pardon me, during this show, where I looked out my window and there was a giant-headed alien gray standing there staring back at me. I called Keith up. I'm like, you're not going to believe this. You're not going to believe this. And what was weird is you had actually gone to bed that night and woke up for some reason. I think you went to get a glass of water or something. And that's when I called.
Yeah, and it was just a weird time.
Yeah, and then in 2018, I felt Carl's energy back. And I called up Keith, and I was saying there's a bunch of stuff going on here. And there's a bunch of going on from my backyard to up my driveway by my big trees. And Keith started communicating with them as I had them on speakerphone, and they were replying. The odd, oh yeah, I'll never forget that. Never forget that. And, this is one of the reasons why I get very defensive when people try to take shots at Keith, because I've seen it with my own eyes. I've heard it with my own eyes. Oh, R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection continues after this. We're going to get to some audience questions as we roll along with the ET Connection. If you're in our chat room, do me a favor, put your questions in capital letters, whether you're listening on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook, or Spreaker, or there's one more I can't remember right now. We'll be right back on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we are clear. Troy or the ferret, to answer your question, Keith communicated in their language. Trace, welcome to SOR Chat. Please once again put your questions in capital letters so I can read them easier. Hi, Jane's Coffee. I might call you Paul Coffee. And if you know who Paul Coffee is, you might have to Google him. Then you'll know why. Major respect. Major. How you doing, Keith?
Not bad. How about you?
I am good.
No, it's been an interesting run. Yeah, I mean, my life just went completely sideways. I think I broke a world record though. They finally put me on medical disability for my leg. 37 years after we applied.
Nice.
I had a slightly different word for it, but I'm quite happy with it nonetheless.
I love it. About time.
Well, it is. It takes a lot of the stress off of things. But I tell you, I look at what I'm going through and I go, P, there are so many people in worse shape than I'm in, and are in so much more disarray because of what's going on in their world, which is the reason why I am still literally here. As far as still on this show, not as far as why I'm still living. The way I keep telling people, God doesn't want me and Satan's afraid I'll take over. So you're stuck with me.
Good. I like being stuck with you, my man.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting. Next month is going to be something bizarre. I've tried the last 2 years to get down there. This year I've got the ticket already bought and paid for.
Me too. Hi, Major Lee. How you doing? And Gizmo, nice to see you. Mm-hmm. Who else has jumped in here? Thurston Howell the Third. Casey Ryback. Mm-hmm. 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 I'm caught up. I am caught up, my man. Caught right up. Keith, what was it? Did you understand the communication of the aliens when you were talking to them in my yard?
Oh, yeah. In a nutshell, it boiled down to Paul wanted to talk to you personally. And
Carl.
he was getting flack for actually trying to make contact. He wasn't supposed to. He was there to collect samples, not of people. He was actually there on a botanical run. And if they had come across wildlife, that would have been great. But the idea of him trying to actually make direct contact with a bipedal hominid, not in the game plan, definitely not in conjunction with orders. He had a very specific job to do, and he had broke protocol big time, which is why he got shipped home for a while.
Haven't seen him since. Have not seen him since.
He may have gotten in more trouble than we suspected. He definitely broke protocol. Mind you, there's something to be said for breaking protocol like that. He gets to go. I got onto this distant planet as a collector, and I made contact, and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I forget who it was, but it's the same sort of thing. it literally boils down to the same sort of thing as some humans, some anthropologists have become world famous because they made contact with another race. Same idea
Right.
with Carl.
All right, hold on right there, Keith. Once again, we want to remind the audience a super chat is open. Hi, Paul Nicholas. How you doing? And who else has jumped in here? Shiny Ray, nice to see you. And Eve Clancy. Here we go. Like now. Here we go at the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Always a pleasure to have you here. My name is Dave Scott. Yeah, I'm that guy who wears a lot of tinfoil if you see me in public. Reminder to all of you that if you miss portions of this show or others, always check out our free archives. We're on every major podcast network and on youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us a favor, hit that subscribe or follow button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection continues on right now as we talk all things extraterrestrial and we get into the audience participation. Keith, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Always a pleasure. I love the audience questions. Some of them are really odd, but and for me, that says a lot. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get into it right now, starting with Jules here. Keith, we know there's a plethora of beings. Do any of them hang around invisible, just laughing at our antics or watching us like soap operas? This is the woo of our lives kind of stuff?
Absolutely. There are a number that do that. Many of the ones that are hanging around with that in mind, though, are actually not ETs. Well, technically they are in a sense, but they're actually ancient races. The ones that you guys read about, that you've written about in mythology, in many of your so-called cryptids, aren't exactly as cryptid as you might think. But there are ones that will just sit there in the corner and go, okay, is he going to see that door or is he going to walk into it? But they watch for the oddities. Like one in particular, I kid you not, they were sitting there watching and betting between them as to whether this one human was going to end up dying. The human actually ended up living. He walked through an active propeller and never got hit. But they've got their gambling as well.
But
you got to remember, this is a live action soap opera for them.
All right, let's continue on. Let us go to Puck Elf in New Zealand. Question, Keith. Why do you think the reptilians are seen as evil in the West, but benevolent in the East?
Because in the West, 1977 through 82, there was a movie and a series called V. Okay, now, in the West, that was a massive smash hit. And seems to have had, well, let's face it, here we are 50 years later. People still think the reptilians have taken over the monarchies and the big corporations. They haven't, but that's where humans are still stuck. In the East, as near as I can figure, they didn't get that show, or they didn't buy into it, one of the two.
Okay, let's move
on. The other
on.
issue, of course.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. The other issue, of course, is in Africa. The Chitawari, they evolved side by side with mankind. They just stayed underground because, well, frankly, it was safer for them.
All right. Let's move on. Let's go to Chris Teen, who has a question. Are there any ETs who have love for us and aren't just indifferent?
Absolutely. The Mobians, for one. Now, the Mobians, in all fairness, are human. Okay, they actually evolved on Earth, and then they literally colonized Mobius on the other side of the sun. Okay, the Sazatians do find humans entertaining, just a little fragile. You know, the kind, for some of them, they look at humans as almost a semi, if you will, a semi-simian pet. You know, they're fun to watch, don't get a lot of accomplishment, spend a lot more time throwing things at each other than they do actually building anything. But they do like the way humans are. You know, so yeah,
right.
you've got the ones that will actually fight for them. Like I said, Srazalians came here to protect Earth, or like to protect the people.
All right, let's move on here. Let us go to the Doug Shelby, who is asking, R. Keith, do you think the reluctance to tell the truth about ETs is money related, medical bills, and energy bills?
Oh, that is part of it. The other part of it is literally religious. Okay, they could not afford, from the standpoint of most of the governments and or corporations, it's definitely, in my eyes, it's as close to definite as I'm going to get, finance related. But when we move over into the religious sector, you might chalk it up to money, you might chalk it up to humanitarian. Mankind has evolved believing wholeheartedly we are alone. Okay, and they can, if that is broken before mankind is ready for it, it is going to cause havoc. Now, is it possible mankind will roll with it? Certainly it is. And it's possible that your dad will get up and crawl out of the grave. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one either, though.
Okay, let's move on. Let us go to Aloha Dave in Mexico. Do vivid dreams have any connection with contact or being abducted?
Connection, yes. But are they indicative of being abducted? No. Quite often the off-worlders, especially when you start looking at the Zeta Reticuli, okay, Zeta Reticulans will tap into people's brains in order to create a ghost memory, to try and protect, if you will, their sanity once they've been abducted. Because it's easier for humans to get to deal with, oh, I dreamt about a great horned owl perched on the edge of my bed, than it is to cope with the idea of, I was on an operating table and I was surrounded by ETs. You know, being completely helpless. So they literally utilize dreams to find out what can protect your brain. Because oddly enough, humans actually have one.
Got it. Let's go again to another question, as we got a number of questions for you tonight, Keith. I want to weigh in on that too, before we get back, about vivid dreams. Most of my contact that I have is through those vivid dreams, and where they show me the facade of what they think I want to see to keep me calm. What's your thoughts
That
on
would
that?
make total sense. That would make total sense. You got to remember, especially Dave, when you take a look at the size of you, and I'm not talking about weight, I'm talking about mass. Okay, you're not exactly a small individual compared to a 3 foot tall, frail ET. Frail alien.
Right.
So keeping you calm is definitely an idea.
Okay. So is that a way that they do make us calm, is by projecting what it actually is?
Sometimes, yes, but if they what they do is they project it so it seems like a dream. I had a dream about an alien. Aliens aren't real. It was just a dream. I can carry on. Oh, maybe I had a bite of bad cheese. And my stomach just didn't agree with me, and this is a side effect. Humans will rationalize that side of it. So it's very, because you got to remember, especially when it comes to the abductions, they don't desire to disrupt human society, nor do they desire to haphazardly, modify it or control it. They do have a massive message that they hand out to a lot of people, that you've got to start treating the planet better. Okay. And slowly but surely, mankind is getting that message.
I get that.
You know,
Okay. So let me ask you this though, because in a lot of my dreams that I have, okay, I only get snippets. I only get sometimes 5, 10 seconds of what I'm seeing, and then from there everything disappears.
right. And you're trying to figure out why.
Well, I know it's happening. I just would, for myself, I'd just like some clarity.
Well, what you do, and keep it in the forefront of your mind, especially when you're on a show like this, okay, or if you're a guest on somebody else's, keep it in the forefront of your mind that you're thanking them for leaving the memo, for giving you more clarity. Not asking for more clarity, but thanking them for it, as though they've already gifted it to you. See, they're banking on the fact that that you, like most humans, will fill in the blanks accurately enough to answer your own questions.
Right. I get that. And I can understand that. And so I don't like it. I can tell you that right now. It's not fun to be in. It's not a fun position to
Oh
not
no.
know what's happening to you.
And rest assured, knowing what's coming isn't necessarily a joyride either.
No, but I mean, you think about it. I would love to know, give you an example. I would love to know if I have been taken, which I know I have. I would love to know if I've flown the ship, for instance. I would love to know that.
I can tell you wholeheartedly from my instincts. Can't tell you for an absolute certainty, but I can tell you, if you had actually flown the ship, you wouldn't be asking me. Even if it only seemed, well, you wouldn't be asking them either. Even if it only seemed like a vague thought process, right? You wouldn't. There is a very definitive difference depending on which race you've been taken by. In your case, it's a pretty consistent. It's been a pretty consistent Zetas. That you're dealing with. Primarily because, yes, they do have their protocols. And ultimately, it boils down to, you've been tagged. Okay.
Mhm.
So, and they do that a lot. One research group will go, okay, I've got hominid number such and such. Hands off. I'm in the middle of some extent of research, and
Right.
you're picking him up is going to interfere.
Right. I get that. I can appreciate that. I can totally appreciate that.
You know,
All
this
right,
is
Keith.
why this is why the Zeta Reticulum D are there.
All right, let's get to another question here. Let's go to Deidre. I wonder if aliens cloak themselves as ghosts or shadow people.
No, the shadow people are real, and ghosts are another issue altogether. Although there have been off-worlders that have died on Earth and are currently ghosts, but it's not called cloaking; it's called dying. You got to remember, when a corporeal body dies, the soul that's left over is what you're seeing as the ghost. Okay, it's kind of like you wreck your Ford and everybody sees the translucent Ford when they see you go by. Because that's what they ran. That's the last image that they knew you had, so that's the one they give you.
Right. Right. Let's move on to Marty. Marty is asking, Keith often talks about how some ETs would, I'm going to say, eat humans. Are there any ETs that taste that good?
I can honestly tell you that now this assumes, of course, that you like rattlesnake or you like lizard. Okay, most of the reptilians they actually have a nice little flavor, a little gamey on occasion, depending on which one. Okay, but you got to remember their method of dealing with things. Now, I'm lucky; they know I don't eat raw. Okay, so they will absolutely make sure that it's cooked at least to blue rare, which is the way I eat steak anyway. Now, the reason I can tell you, if you like rattlesnake, it's a very similar taste. Okay, because I've eaten both.
Oh, boy. What kind of spice do you use on that? Maybe a little Grey Poupon on the side?
I don't like Grey Poupon. So, no.
Little,
Now, proper Polish sauerkraut, that's another issue.
little hot sauce action?
I'm not that much into spice anymore, to be honest. Although I have been told it is good for your health, so I've been working on it.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with you. Gotta add a little spice in the life, my man. Got a little add a little spice. It always works out better. All right, Keith, let's continue on with our audience questions here as they keep coming on in. And we're going to keep asking them because that's what we do here. Let's go to Christine again. Keith, why did Carl want to talk to Dave personally?
Simply put, Dave's got one heck of an open mind. And therefore, Carl figured, hey, this one's open enough. I can talk to him. And he won't scream at me and run away. Which is what people usually do, or at least they try to. So he figured he'd get to talk to one of these people that the researchers were just looking at as a thing. Carl wanted more of a hands-on approach to find out what he was really researching. Carl's odd in as much as he's got a curiosity streak that rivals humans.
Yeah.
But ultimately, that's what he was looking for.
It would have been
Was
nice.
quite literally.
It'd be nice to spend a little bit more time with him. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it absolutely would be. Thing that we have to realize is that Carl is not like Paul. As in the movie Paul.
No. They're a little bit different. They're a little bit different. This one's real, at least. You know? And I kind of like the realness of it all. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Marty. R Keith. Oh, we already asked that one. Let's go to Troy SR71. Keith, where do you see the human species in 500 years?
In 500 years, if everything stays on the path, if it changes direction enough, you don't blow yourself to pieces, then quite frankly, the higher senses, what are currently called psychic abilities, will come back onto a massively more prominent ability. Okay. Plus, we will have interstellar drive. Thereby, within 500 years, we could quite easily be one of the newer members of the consortium, as being full members. There's a lot to accomplish in that time, but 500 years for humans is a lot of time. I mean, let's face it, we're looking at 2,500 generations.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. A lot of people in between now and then. A lot of people. All right, Keith, we got 3 minutes to go here. Let's get to another couple of questions. And let's go to Super Crazy. On their home worlds, do ETs live similarly to us? Wake up, go to work, watch TV, celebrate holidays, worship deities, etc.?
The short answer is yes. Okay. Ultimately, ETs, the biggest difference between ETs and between any species of human, the biggest difference is the type of toys they have. Okay. But, some of them are, they got what humans would call way more barbaric or volatile sports. But they still believe, most of them believe in a higher entity. They call it by different names. But it's the same thing. Take people and you put them all in a room to deal with things. ETs do the same thing. They still have their discussions. They've still got their disagreements. They're not by any functional stretch, contrary to some of their beliefs, they are not actually gods. They just think they are in some cases. Usually because humans turned around and said, "Oh, you're a god." And they went, "Bonus, what's that mean?" And then they got in trouble for it, so they left. Net result, the Ennead, which are what the Egyptians called gods, okay, they were very much along the same lines as humans were, with just far more advanced technologies. Same as the Greeks, the Romans, and trying to think who the other ones were. But
I don't know.
You get the idea.
That's the idea.
I just pulled the blank, but I can work with it.
I got the idea, my man. Got the idea. All right. We don't really have enough time for another audience question for this half hour. Hard to believe we're already 1 hour in with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection right here on Spaced Out Radio. It's a good time to have with us, and we love the audience participation. So if you're one of our chat rooms, whether it's Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Spreaker, X, put your questions in capital letters. I will get them to you as quickly as possible. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection. We're going into hour number 2 as the Woo Train continues to roll and pick up speed on the tracks. This is Spaced Out Radio, and we'll be right back. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. Clear as day. Clear as day.
Absolutely. Well, it's so much better being clear as mud.
Right. Hi, Brandon Coast. President Zaddy. F.U. Zaddy. Cowboys 5 rings. How you doing? Keith, I'm just going to put you in the background here. Or do you want to sit and chat with the audience for a
minute? Oh, I can sit. That's not a problem.
All right. Remember, Keith, just try and keep the questions to a minimum. Maybe tell them a story, because that way I don't get them confused for their on-air questions.
Oh, yeah. No, I ignore the questions in there.
Okay.
Yeah, just to be clear, guys, much as I love the questions coming in, it's a great idea. I really do appreciate it. I operate best that way. Okay, answering questions you've got. Am I going to answer any of the ones I'm seeing coming through? Not a snowball's prayer. That's something that people have asked me for literally a decade now, whether or not I'll answer the questions that are in the chat room. That's Dave's department. But I will tell you that if you don't get the answers, if you don't have your question answered, absolutely drop me a line. Okay, drop me a line. I will do my best, or drop into my own show, and I will talk to you there. Okay, the important thing here is what we're looking at is I rely on your guys' questions to come up with, to know which ones are most pertinent. I am the book Races of the Worlds that I wrote. I am tying off the second edition. It just last year was a write-off for me as far as getting a lot of things sorted around. The neat little part. Oh, no. To be clear on that one I will clear up for you. The reason it's R Keith is because my first name is actually Ronald. So I saw all of my books are written with R Keith Andrews, and my signature is done the same way, which is why I'm referred to as R Keith. And there's a lot of people that have said the same thing, that R meant our. And no, Lord knows people have tried to buy me before. It didn't work out well. One of the biggest things you got to remember is that when we're dealing, and the people in here are fantastic. I cannot believe it's been a decade since I started coming here. And it was literally because of the support and the requests that I was asked by you guys that Races of the World ever even came out. So from that standpoint, I go through this daily. Like it's gotten so common. Just a few months back now, it was in the middle of the winter. I was sitting at the dining room table with my son. And all of a sudden I stopped and I walked outside. And he come out after me. He goes, "What's up, Dad?" I said, "We got company." He never blinked. He looks at me and he goes, "You're going to be taken tonight, aren't you, Dad?" So I looked at him and I said, "Good bet." The next morning, or not the next morning, rather, that night I went to go to bed. Right. And I'd been late, so my son, he asked me if he could stay up. I was just gotten done something. I was just taking the garbage out. And he goes, "Dad, I know it's a school night, but can I stay up until you get back in?" I said, "Yeah, by all means." Well, as it turned out, when I came back in, the lights were all off, and I figured he just gave it. I didn't realize the time difference. Okay, all the lights were off. He'd gone to bed. So in the morning, he comes running into my room, wraps his arms around me, and goes, "Dad, you came back." I said, "Well, of course I came back." He goes, "Dad, I was up until 2:00 in the morning. You never came back." He says, "Were you taken last night?" I says, "Yeah." He goes, I said, I've been telling you that for years. He goes, "Yeah, but Dad, I didn't believe you." Now he just takes it for granted that it's going to happen.
All right, Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. Hi, Ohio Dan. And Oobed Joe's Maine, you've got aliens. And who else has shown up here? Let's scroll on down. Magnus for Magnuson. Good to see you. Kawhi, nice to have you back. And who else is here? Steven Finnegan, good morning to you, my man. And let's see here. Getting all the questions marked here. All right, we are caught up. Thank you tonight to Puck Elf and Aloha Dave for the super chats. Very much appreciate the love and support, guys. It's a wonderful way to support what we do nightly here for you. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you check it on out and get things going and get your swag today. We're coming back in about 15 seconds. And, yeah, we're going to continue with R Keith and your questions. Here we go, everybody. Here comes hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. You can join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the Yesawar Space Travelers Club. Zalam Dodont. Zalam Dodont. There we go. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We continue on with R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection, taking your questions, all things extraterrestrial tonight as we continue to turn up the woo, because that's what we do best around here. Keith, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, not a problem. Really enjoying it. Thanks so much for everybody still here and those just joining us.
Absolutely, my man. Absolutely. We're going to continue on here with our questions from our audience because I know you like it. So we're going to continue on. And let's go to Super Crazy, who is asking, are the ETs that fly around Earth all pilots and scientists, or are some of them tourists?
Some of them are students. So yeah, some are absolutely tourists. But it's kind of like going on a tour of the White House. You know, you're allowed to look, but no touching the residents. Quit petting the tigers, as it were. You know, but yeah, everybody coming here is not here for work.
That's one way to put it, my man. That's one way to put it. Okay, let's continue on here. Mike Rivers is asking, I wonder, do the ETs listen to radio shows like this or our music?
Absolutely. Music more so than radio shows, in all fairness. You'll get some that watch the radio shows because they're either really interested in what's going on, and they know that listening to mainstream isn't going to tell them anything. So they listen to things like what goes on here. Usually because it's more interactive with them in a sense. Oh, well, we're doing this, and let's see what the hominids are saying, or the Solonites, which is really kind of a Solarians rather. You know, which is what they call humans. But music, quite frankly, whatever language, music is its own language. So if something is upbeat for humans, it's upbeat for most of the off-worlders.
Sounds good. I'd like to meet some
Ultimately,
heavy
that's why you
metal
listen
type
to it.
aliens. Well, I hope they like a good guitar solo. Super Crazy is asking, are there UFOs being flown on Earth by interdimensional beings or by non-humans living in our oceans?
By non-humans living in our oceans, yes. By interdimensional, no. If it exists, if it is detectable on Earth in this dimension, it's third dimensional. It didn't come from another dimension. It may well, and this is where I run into a snag. People are talking about it being interdimensional. I'm wondering if what they're referring to is hypervibratory. Because if you vibrate something fast enough, it will appear to disappear, to pop into a different dimension because it shows up elsewhere. You couple off-world technology with wormhole technology, and all of a sudden you can get anywhere on the planet without any problem. And it will appear as though you're stepping out of existence. But underwater, absolutely. And no, I'm not going to tell you the location of the latest base. Okay, I will tell you there's an entire civilization underneath the silt ribbon in the Marianas Trench. Of course, in all fairness, they've already told modern man that they're down there. But modern man's technology can't get them there.
All right, let's move on. Let us go back to Super Crazy here. What ET UFO secrets are being hidden from us in Antarctica?
Access to inner Earth. You guys call it inner Earth or hollow Earth, but one of the access points. Plus, you add on to that the technology, the Atlantean technology that is there, is also being concealed. But the big thing is the access point. Which, in all fairness, you really don't want forced entrance there anyway. But that ultimately is what you're looking at hidden there. I use the term hidden a little loosely because the Atlantean stuff is under ice. Not exactly a hiding spot. It's kind of like a kid standing in the middle of a room, covering his eyes, going, "You can't see me."
All right, Keith.
Not exactly hidden, just hard to get to.
Okay, let's get to the next question here. And let's go to Burnt Toast. Keith, do you have to go on board a craft to have a holographic implant put in you?
No. You don't have to. They usually do it that way because it's far easier and less likely to be disrupted. Their technology has evolved. They could frankly put an implant in you, walking by you, and you'd never even see it happen. You might feel a pinch. But that implant, if they're just putting one on you without taking you to the ship, they're putting a tracker on you. If they're actually putting in a data shunt, they'll take you on board a ship because it takes a lot longer to put it in properly. So what you might get is a tracker put on so they can pick you up later. That is more often than not the reason they do it that way.
All right, let's see where we go from there. Let's go over to Super Crazy again. He's filled with questions tonight. What is the origin of humanity? Are we hybrids of some sort?
No, we were actually built for war by the Elfid. Now, the Elfid, what you call elves, okay, were the first corporeal sentient race, sentient by human standards, to develop on Earth. They built humans for war, which is one of the reasons why mankind is still, to say the least, a little aggressive. But they weren't built as slaves. They weren't built for mining purposes. Humans are, pardon my being blunt, well, or don't, but humans are pathetic where it comes to mining. They just don't have the technology available to make it an efficient job. But they were built for war because they're very easy to repair and very easy to replicate. Primarily, they're fire and forget. Humans reproduce faster than rabbits, according to the off-worlders, which is possibly the only reason why mankind hasn't wiped itself out.
Well, that's good. All right, Keith, let's move on to another question. Let's go to Aloha Dave over in Mexico. The humans that have psychic abilities, are they hybrids?
No. Massive majority of them are purebred humans simply evolving. This is a normal evolutionary state that takes place in virtually every corporeal. What's happening is every single human that's born is psychic. But humans train humans to not be able to access them. I.e., the kid hits 4 or 5 years old, and the massive majority of parents will go, "That's a wonderful imagination, son. Now it's time to grow up and be an adult." Like the imagination isn't used when you're an adult. But no, humans are naturally psychic. Okay, it's just we've been taught to fear them. We've been taught to fear psychics. Scanners was a fabulous movie that really helped bolster that idea. Now, yes, some psychics have this brilliant idea. Oh, I'm psychic, so I'm better than you are. There is not a psychic on the planet that is better than a non-active psychic. Not a one.
Hectic would like to know, when are the aliens coming for the non-experiencers? When will aliens be normal?
Well, that was that thing about 500 years. I mean, quite frankly, I would be pleasantly surprised to see them making a viable foothold within the next 100 years. You may get the lead scouts, if you will, non-military scouts. I mean, the guys that are the explorers. You may get them within 50. But again, most humans will simply chalk it up to they're not real. Or that's fabulous cosplay. And they'll write it off. This is one of the reasons why the off-worlders actually approve of what Hollywood has done. What most people don't realize is that there are Hollywood producers that actually know what is happening.
All right,
they actually have an inside track.
Paramarv would like to know, have your ET contacts shared any information about the Mandela effect? Is CERN the cause? And are the ETs Team Bernstein or Team Bearstein?
I have no idea what the last reference is, to be frank.
The Bernstein Bears, the book?
Yes. I know the Bernstein Bears. It's the Bernstein that I don't know.
Well, it's Berenstein and Berenstain. It's a Mandela effect.
Oh, okay. It's just okay. Don't mind me. I'm obtuse on occasion. A lot of occasions. But that being said, the Mandela effect is not actually it's not a side effect of CERN. CERN itself is a necessary endeavor. And they've got to go through CERN in order to get certain technologies, in order to understand certain technologies. Okay. It's kind of like you cannot learn to walk if you cannot learn to stand up. This is what mankind is doing with the sciences, but they're not causing the problem that people are thinking of. You got to remember, mankind's memory is eidetic. Mankind's recall is what causes a lot of these ghost images. Because the image will come in, you'll remember it, and then it'll catch up. But that's the human brain having trouble keeping up with itself. It's got nothing to do with anybody, scrambling things. At least not that I've become aware of.
Next question comes from Mage River. Can aliens show up holographically? Is that right?
They can. It's very much like humans can show up on the other side of the planet on a flat screen TV. Same idea, just more advanced technology. However, that said, if they show up holographically, they cannot interact. I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of like trying to get a light show to interact. You got to up the I don't know if it's amperage or voltage or what it is, to get light to actually have a physical effect. And if you run the holograph of that magnitude, you're going to cause more problems than you're going to solve.
All right, let's continue on, Keith. We got a lot more questions here. Jules would like to know, what kind of stuff do the off-worlders say about total eclipses?
They're natural. They look at a total eclipse kind of like you look at a person walking in front of another one and blocking your view. They're just a commonplace occurrence. So for them, it's nothing more than studying shadows and light. If you take, like when I was in high school, I took a course in optics, and ultimately a total eclipse is the same thing. It's simply one body moving in front of another.
Right.
From their standpoint, it's not a metaphysical indicator of any form.
Okay, Keith, let's continue on. Super Crazy wants to know, do you think humans will avoid nuclear war?
I'm hoping. They tried blowing themselves up a number of times. So far, it seems to be that they do fortunately seem to be a little bit more self-protective, so it's very likely they'll manage to avoid it. They won't stop nuclear power. Nuclear power is a necessary step. But nuclear war, most humans, even the ones that are in leadership positions now that beak off about it, are not that interested in a full-scale nuclear war. Because, pardon the reference, but the fallout would be insane. And I don't mean the nuclear fallout. I mean the societal fallout. And fortunately, most humans are more interested in self-preservation than they are in global annihilation.
Right. No, I can get that, and I could see that. All right, Keith, let's continue on here. Let's go to Jennifer. Do ETs have souls like us?
Absolutely. An ET body is just another car, ultimately speaking. It's kind of like the difference between humans are driving a 1977 VW Bug, and the ETs are driving a 2024 Lamborghini. It's just a different vehicle. And yes, the concurrent question there is, once you pass away, you do have the option of taking on a life as an off-worlder. Of course, at that point, you won't see it as an off-worlder. I mean, heck, you've got the option of coming back at the blade of grass if you'd like. I'm thinking that's going to be a short life, mind you.
Right. I can see that. All right, Keith, let's go to Jenny. Hi, Keith. Are the alien beings concerned about CERN and the coincidence CERN going live April 8th?
You call it a coincidence, they call it just standard practice. Are they concerned about CERN? No. You got to remember, they have molecular dissociative weapons, meaning they could take one shot at the CERN fountain, at the CERN installation, and it'd be gone. I mean, in all fairness, they can do the same thing to the planet. So, no, CERN is not an issue to them. And as for it being April 8th being anything spectacular, you got to remember, on Earth, amongst humans, that I'm aware of, at last count, there were 6 different active calendars. Okay, amongst humans. So April 8th matters to Westerners. Okay, may matter, well, clearly it matters to the British, to the British Commonwealth. Okay, but anybody working with your 8-hour, your 12-hour clock, April 8th, 12-hour clock, and the months of the year that we use in Canada and the US, anybody working with those, May 8th matters. If they don't use those as a calendar, they don't matter. Not from that standpoint.
All right, Keith, let's continue on. Let's go to Mage River again. Any suggestions to improve abduction recall?
Well, this is going to sound really backwards. Forget you don't remember. And I know that sounds absolutely bizarre, but literally, you start telling yourself that you remember the abduction in its totality. But remember one little detail on that. What you remember may be more unnerving than what you don't remember. You know the old saying, be careful what you wish for. You may just get it.
I get
you
that.
think about the practicality of it. If people say you never forget how to ride a bike. If you fall on, you may not ride it for a while and it'll take you a little bit. You'll be a little bumpy. Where it comes to memory, your memory is eidetic. It is there. Okay. It's your recall you're having trouble with. I literally used that technique to start remembering people's names by telling myself that my memory for names was getting better. And frankly, it really has.
All right, Keith, we got under a minute. Let's try and sneak in one more question. Zaddy is asking, has there ever been any black people stories of being abducted?
Oh, I don't know. Benny and Barney Hill comes to mind. So, yeah.
Craig Jaycox, Eugene Braxton, a number of people. The one thing I will say is this. The black community is really starting to open up to this subject, and they have some incredible stories to share coming up. I guarantee you it's happening. And if you know Mama Catherine in our chat room, she is actually setting up a conference for black experiencers down in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's going to be amazing. And I've talked to them about seeing what we can do to help them out to get more promotion for it. All right, Keith, stay there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection continues after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Keith, we're clear. We have
Yeah.
enough. We have enough questions for tonight. We do. So yeah, we've got about 19 questions to get through in the next half hour.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just a few.
Yeah, guys, I'm not going to take any eclipse questions, and I'll tell you why. Because for our radio stations, by time the this show runs on our radio stations on Monday, the eclipse will be well over, and it's not going to make a lot of sense. So it's a time issue. R Keith Andrews.
I take it we're off at this point, sort of.
Yeah, on the radio side, yeah.
Yeah. I gotta ask, and I'm hesitant as to whether I should ask.
Oh, ask
I
away.
don't like pronouncing people's names wrong. Now, I heard you call him Kawhi. I always called him Cowie.
Kauai, I
Do
believe.
you know which one is actually, huh?
I thought it went along the Hawaiian pronunciation.
I didn't know which pronunciation was correct. That's why I was asking.
Zaddy, we are working on a couple radio stations in Texas. Keith is right. It's Cowie. Okay, I was wrong. Keith, you're right. Well, thanks Cowie, for correcting me after all these years. That's a pet peeve of mine, pronouncing people's names wrong. Now I'm going to be angry.
That's why I asked. I mean, it's a little hard to mispronounce mine. Although, if you try saying, if I
misspells mine. Look at that. LOL. Sorry, Fave. I'm Fave Scott. Thanks. Oh, gosh. Excuse me.
That's okay. Years ago, there was one chap at a country club I worked at. He used to call me Cliff. Where he came up with that name, I have no idea. But even after we got name tagged, he stuck with. No, I didn't think so either. But I don't know. Even after we got the name tags, he still remained calling me Cliff. But then I figure I've been called worse by better, so what the heck?
Right?
No, like you, I much prefer pronouncing people's names right. Or more to the point, correctly.
Right.
But, I mean, my memory for names has been an absolute shambles for most of my life until I started telling myself I could remember them.
That's because you go by R Keith Andrews. You pirate.
Yeah, somebody asked me that the other day. Not the other day, earlier in the stream here. And I told them, that was one I would answer. Because it's one that I get asked a lot.
Everybody thought it for the longest time I was saying our Keith Andrews.
Yeah, that's what I noticed.
Right. Turbo Tone, welcome to SOR.
I mean, the funny part about it is
Go ahead, Keith.
It was funny because this really is the only show that I'm regular on. And it's the one show that I literally will tell people, we'd like to have you on this show. Yeah, but it's at a time I can't make it for. But we really want you. And your point would be what?
I hear you.
I figured somewhere close to a decade here, it's been the same way. you just don't give it up.
Right. All right, we got about 30 seconds here, Keith. Thank you to Aloha Dave ×2 and Puck Elf, Hectic, and Rough Ready for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate your love and support of SOR. Great way to support the show, guys. Thank you. And Keith, get ready because we're going to be coming back in just a few seconds here.
Okay.
The second half of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you for tuning us in. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to remind you that all of our archives, they're always free on any major podcast network or on YouTube at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. R Keith Andrews of the ET Connection continues on here. Keith, thank you so much for joining us as we have you till the top of the hour.
Always a pleasure, Dave.
Let's start off with Paul Nicholas, who is asking, one of the past guests mentioned different types of grays. How many types of grays are there, Keith?
That I can think of offhand, 15. Now, that's not necessarily all there are. I mean, I'm literally in the process of documenting not only the different types, but their I'm drawing a blank on the word. What their primary purpose is. Because each of the different races have different specialties. You know, your Zeta Reticulan are your scientists. And they're the ones that do all the research. Your Zeta Reticulan D are the controllers. They're the ones that sit there and go, okay, I need you to go and research this. You guys take that in that quadrant. They're the ones that hand out job descriptions, if you will. But, and I got to go back to my notes, you've got your Zeta Reticulans, your Beta, your Reta, and your Data Reticulans. They all have very specific tasks. You know, you will get a little bit of crossover, but on the whole, they just aren't geared to crossover. You know, they aren't geared, like, for instance, a human weightlifter, you won't get many human weightlifters that are competent in ballet. Can't imagine why not, but...
All right, let's continue on. Let's go to Super Crazy here. Are there any famous humans that are actually ETs?
Not that I'm aware of, quite frankly. The reason there's a big issue there, they're not permitted to take on major positions. Now, as the saying goes, you know, everyone's famous in a small town. So from that standpoint, yes. But I would suspect, and no, I'm not going to tell you who. I suspect what's being referred to are any of the superstars or the movie actors or actresses, or for that matter, are any of the, you know, of the politically situated people actually off-worlders? No, they're forbidden. And the ones that try to take that over, to take over a position or move into one like that, tend to get terminated. Not shipped to another part of the world, but they might get shipped to 5 different places at the same time. But not, you know, not as far as the standard run goes.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. And let's go to Rafin. Do any of the ETs get abducted themselves?
Absolutely, all the time. They also have slave trade in amongst the ETs. You've got slave trade, you've got the drug trade where you get abductions happening quite regularly. Different types of drugs, different people, different drugs. It's that simple. But yeah, you get abductions, you get experimentation. What goes on Earth is a tiny, tiny, tiny microcosm of what's out there. Okay, they've just been at it longer.
Continuing on, let's go to
That makes
President
sense.
Zad. Are there any black aliens? Like I heard a story about the Black Knight satellite one time.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you got black, blue, white, pick a color. There are aliens that literally they don't have a color because they keep changing it depending on the train they're in. You take a look at the Korlock. The Korlock don't have a specific color. They're a complete metamorph. Color is the reason humans have color is because humans' eyes are built to see it. Okay. But yeah, there's definitely, you name the color and it probably exists. I do know one in specific. There is, and I forget exactly which one, but there is a race of black reticulans. Okay. Now, do understand, the race is black, the species is reticulan. Kind of like humans, your race may be a different color, but your species is the same thing. And that was something I had a lot of trouble wrapping my brain around for the longest time.
All right, let's continue on here. Let's go to Paul again, who is asking, Max Hawthorne, who was a guest of ours just the other night, Keith, mentioned 9 types of grays. Can you expand on this? Like, what is the difference? I'm going to assume this question is about what is the difference of the grays? Do they all look different?
They have, some will have, for instance, more enhanced cheekbones, or their skull may be a little bit more squared off than the oblong one that you used to. And this is stuff I'm in the process of striving to document. But I know of 15 different ones. Okay, and I will get them all documented. It's actually on my desk right now that I've been working on. But yeah, I mean, 9 it's a nice number, but it's incomplete. But you're looking at subtle differences. The big thing that keeps them in track. You take a look at the configuration of the mouth, and the mouth, nose, and eyes are very similar. Eyes on the whole are the giveaway. But the skeletal configuration is where the real differences come in. One of the things you got to remember, when we take a look at the Zeta Reticulans, they are not built for any sort of functional interaction. This is why on the ships, when they go to abduct somebody, they quite often have Nords. Okay. And somewhere in my records, I've actually got the name. I keep meaning to remember it. I actually found it the other day. Nords are not actually called Nords. Okay. They actually have a name, and I just don't have it right handy to be able to pull it up fast enough.
Okay, let's just move on there for a couple of seconds. And let's go to Jane. What would you ask an alien, Keith? If you could ask one question.
In all likelihood, it'd probably be where the washroom is. And the
Out of all,
reality of that
hold
is,
on a second. Yeah, out of all the questions you would ask, it'd be like, take me to your bathroom.
well, you got to remember, my sense of direction is just about non-existent. So my getting lost, an alien to me is just another source of reference to figure out where I'm heading. You know, other than the fact they look different, they behave differently, they behave kind of the same in a lot of ways. But my biggest concern is figuring out where I'm heading.
Right.
You know, the rest of it really depends on the conversation. You know, if I'm talking to somebody, if their specialty happens to be, for instance, I literally asked one of the military attaches about the concept that humans have that the off-worlders are going to attack Earth. And they laid out in very specific fashion how, if it were even an option, how they would take out Earth. If they were going to occupy it, they explained how it would be done. And I'm telling you, humans wouldn't even know the fight started before it was over. Like, it would just be done. You know, but it depends on the alien and what the conversation is as to what I'm going to end up asking. But for me, they're just other people.
Right. All right, Keith. Let's continue on here. And let us go to Stephen in the UK. Which, if any, of the aliens are anatomically similar to humans?
The Mobians are the most obvious. Mobians are humans that evolved, that left Earth. Well, they left Earth about 50,000 years ago and colonized Mobius. And yes, NASA knows Mobius is there. You, as a human on this planet, unless you're really well connected to people running satellites, are never going to see Mobius from Earth. It's not physically possible because Mobius is in a matched orbit around Earth or around the sun in Earth's orbit. So the sun will always be between Earth and Mobius. But the Mobians are very, very similar. The Xenon look similar to humans, aside from the skull configuration. Martokians, if you take the knees out of the equation, and the fact they're green, okay, they look similar. But the humans are dead, or the Mobians are a dead ringer. Like, you'd never notice them. And of course, as we all know, the Nords, the Nords themselves look very human, just larger than most. But we call them Nords because they still dress very much like the old Norse people. From our own history.
Right. All right, Keith, let's move on as we go to Paramarv. I saw a documentary about time travel called Back to the Future, and someone took a book back in time to his benefit. Damn Biff Tannen. Do aliens have a code of conduct they have to adhere to with things like this?
Well, number one, there is no travel back in time, period. Just doesn't exist at all. You can travel forward in time. You can look to the past to see what happened, but you cannot go there or send anything there. Can't be done. So, do they have a code of conduct? Certainly. But it's got nothing to do with reverse time travel. They are warned, if you're going to play around with transport into the future, understand it's a one-way trip. And you can do all the research you'd like. You're not coming back. So
Gotcha.
Most of the people that understand time travel won't even consider it because they don't want to leave everything they know behind.
Right. All right, my man. Let's move on to another question. Let's go to Jennifer. Where are they, the aliens, living? Earth, underground, on the moon, Mars, Orion?
Short answer, all of the above. And then way more than that. Okay, you've got ones on Venus, you've got ones on Io, you've got ones on Titan, you've got ones on Uranus, okay, and of course on Vulcan. And that's just in our local solar system. Orion absolutely has multiple races living in the Orion belt. Okay. And then over on Draconis, you have multiple races. And there are places, there are in different galaxies on the other side of different wormholes. On Earth, you've got on the Earth, up in the high, in the top of the Himalayas, and other tall mountains, down in the bottom of the ocean, again in inner Earth, out in the middle of the Arctic. There are races that are traveling all over this planet. You think that we don't have enough room. People say we're running out of room on Earth for humans. Humans are the smallest number of people that are floating around here. But you got to remember, some of these races can vibrate fast enough, they'll pass right through you and you'll never see them, much less feel them.
Right. Let's get to another question because we still have lots to go in about 7.5 minutes. Let's go to Joe here. Have aliens used humans for slave labor since the whole digging for gold for the Anunnaki thing?
Well, number one, they didn't dig for gold. Humans are very poor at mining, but the answer to your question is absolutely they've been used for slave labor. They have been shipped all over the off-worlders known universe. Sometimes as slave labor, sometimes as zoological exhibits. Okay, once in a while you'll get somebody adopting a human. Kind of like I want a Black Panther, or I want to own a koala bear. Well, I want to have a human for a pet. And they're treated pretty much the same way, with a little bit more, in the way of amenities that humans are used to. I.e., you're not given litter box. Okay, you actually get normal facilities that humans are capable of working with.
Let's go to Casey here. Keith, what's the longest you have been taken for at once?
This lifetime? That's a good question. The longest documented that anybody else knew about was 4 hours. But it's been, from my standpoint, bear in mind, I have no real functional answer for you. I don't track time. Best I can tell you is certainly longer than a day. Fortunately, I tend to get put back. They've only missed the bed once. That was painful. But, I unfortunately I just literally am not capable of tracking time.
All right, let's continue on here. 5.5 minutes to go. R Keith Andrews and the ET Connection. Let's go to Aloha Dave. Keith, do aliens take us to different dimensions?
No. Anything, I know that was real blunt. Anything that is observable in the third dimension is third dimensional. Now, they will take you to a different vibratory state, okay, to get into their vibratory state. But you got to remember, and this was proven a long time ago, even by humans, you vibrate something fast enough, it becomes invisible. And I think this is where people are getting the idea of them disappearing into a different dimension. It's not a different dimension, it's still third. It's just moving faster. And I don't mean temporally speaking. I'm referring to physically they vibrate faster. But it also
Continuing on.
means they can get into places that there's no entrance.
Let's go to Troy.
Fire.
Keith, if you could go back in time 25 years, what would you do differently as it pertains to interacting with extraterrestrials?
If I had the option, get off this backwards mud ball and stay that way. Don't take that personally. But I told everybody when I was a kid I wanted off this mud ball. What I didn't tell them was don't bring me back.
Well, you got screwed up that one.
Yeah, well,
screwed on that one.
I did.
All right, Keith, let's go to another question here. We've got about 3.5 minutes. Let's go to Laura. Is there a connection with ET technology and Havana syndrome?
I'm going to say it's possible. I just don't know what Havana syndrome is.
Well, they just did a special on 60 Minutes about it. And it is literally, it's a disputed medical condition reported primarily by U.S. diplomatic, intelligence, and military officials, okay, who claim that they almost get zapped by DEW weapons, all right, and have everything from burns. Originally, it was in Havana, Cuba. That's how it gets the name. When people were first reporting it by Canadian and U.S. embassy staff in Havana, Cuba. And it looks like burns. It's like an ultrasound or microwave weapons that are being shot at you and causing health issues.
Oh, that's not human tech. That's reverse engineered technology. You see, the technology you're referring to would cut through a human like a hot knife through butter. It wouldn't leave a burn. Might leave a burn on the wall behind you, but then you're not going to live long enough to see it. So you're talking about weapons that mankind is reverse engineering or playing around with.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Christine. Keith, when you helped me find my ring, was that intuition or were you being psychic?
There's a difference. I simply got told where it was. And I do mean that quite literally. Now, whether you want to call that intuition or psychic, I don't know. I refer to myself as a spiritual guide. But when I say I'm being told such and such, I mean literally I'm hearing a voice that says, look in this location. So I do. I look in that location. Of course, the reason I was able to pin it down was at that point I could see it. Okay, what you would call clairvoyance or remote viewing, take your pick. And no, before somebody goes there, I don't go looking around other people's houses.
Yes, you do, you silly goose. Final question for you before we let you go tonight. This from Jules. Tell us some off-worlders masquerading as humans. Names, please.
No.
I knew that would be your answer. I totally knew it.
There are certain things I won't reveal, and that's one of them.
Why won't you reveal it?
It's called privacy. Do you realize if anybody were to know exactly who people are, that you realize what the scientists would do to that individual, like the human scientists? Right. Okay. That's why I won't do it.
Quickly here, tell everybody your YouTube channel so they can go hit subscribe.
That's the easy one. R Keith Andrews.
Love you, buddy. You have a great
That's the YouTube channel.
You have a great night.
Thank you so much.
And we will talk to you next month. Coming up next, Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and Nicole Sackage filling in for Courtney Marcassani on UFO Court. Hour 3 is next.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
All right, Keith, thank you so much, my man.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Dave.
Always appreciate you being here, buddy. Always. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. You take care.
Take care. R Keith Andrews, everybody. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. And then we'll get to Steve Stockton. Then Nicole's done her hair for tonight. So we'll check that out when we get back. right. We are back. Hello, Nicole Sakic in the chat room. Christine Lynn, good to see you. Hello, everybody listening in on X. How you doing? It's only Vicks, nothing else, just Vicks inhaler. Thank you. I'm surprised you can see me, Aloha Dave, since I'm wearing camouflage. Thank you, Aloha Dave, with a hat trick of super chats tonight. Kira, Rough Ready, Hectic, and Puck Elf. Always appreciate the love and support. Here we go, everybody. Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Always appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. You could join us at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And what do we got tonight? Oh, well, let's take a look. Solamdodont. Solamdodont is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. It is that time of the night we say hello to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing and another missing person story.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Among the Missing YouTube channel on Spaced Out Radio. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'm about to take you on an unbelievable journey of people just like you. Their stories and encounters will haunt us on Among the Missing. Quang Trong Than, a 66-year-old resident of Newport Beach, California, along with two others, embarked on a climb to the north slope of Split Mountain on the Sierra Nevada crest from the Red Lake Trailhead on Sunday, August 21, 2022. The initial plan was to summit Split Mountain and return via Inyo National Forest on the same day. However, according to the Inyo County Sheriff's Department, Quang separated from his group and decided to return to the trailhead instead of summiting the mountain. The National Park Service reported that he was not carrying any overnight gear. Also, according to the National Park Service, Quang was last seen on Sunday, August 21, 2022, between 3 and 4 p.m. near the peak of Split Mountain, close to the boundary of Kings Canyon National Park and Inyo National Forest. At an altitude of 13,200 feet, one party member had waited 60 to 90 minutes for Quang and the other members to return. Quang had indicated that he would either fall behind, wait for them there, or head down, but the Inyo County Sheriff's Office said no specific plan was made. The other two members returned to the vehicle around 3:30 p.m. Quang had left his helmet and jacket at Red Lake and had yet to return to pick them up. His companions did not see him on their descent. On Monday, August 22nd, the Inyo County Sheriff's Department reported that Inyo Search and Rescue received a call for a missing hiker at Red Lake/Split Mountain. The California Highway Patrol searched for Quang using high-powered optics according to a statement from the Inyo County Sheriff's Office. 2 search and rescue members visited the Red Lake Trail and interviewed the 2 hikers who were with Kwong. On Tuesday, August 23, Sequoia Kings National Park helicopters scanned the area with high-powered optics but found nothing. The Inyo County Sheriff's Office reported that on Wednesday, August 24, 4 Inyo search and rescue members were inserted by the California Highway Patrol. 2 went to the point where Kwong was last seen, and 2 went to Red Lake. The 2 inserted where Kwong was last seen scoured the summit, the Red Lake drainage, the Tinnemaha drainage, and the lake under Mather Pass. They searched the descent gully and spoke with a party of 3 who had gotten funneled towards the wrong gully, as the other members of Kwong's party did on their descent. Both parties were able to turn around and find the correct descent. The Inyo County Sheriff's Office said that the California Highway Patrol spent the entire day thoroughly surveying the area, but there was no evidence of Kwong. The Inyo County Sheriff's Office said that the 2 search and rescue members at Red Lake also scoured the area with no trace of Kwong. They spoke with 1 hiker coming down who mentioned getting funneled towards the wrong gully. The high elevation of where Kwong was last seen and the scorching weather made it challenging for helicopter operations and ground searchers. Despite extensive efforts spanning over 10 days, Kwong's whereabouts remain unknown, and the search was placed in limited continuous mode. Kwong's itinerary was highly challenging, and few other hikers were in the area when he went missing. The National Park Service said that simultaneous searches were led by Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks and the Inyo County Sheriff's Department with the assistance of Inyo National Forest, Inyo County Search and Rescue, California National Guard, Sierra Madre Search and Rescue, the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center, Tulare County and Los Angeles County Sheriff's Departments, Yosemite, Death Valley, and Pinnacles National Parks, the Civil Air Patrol, California Governor's Office of Emergency Management, and California Highway Patrol Inland Division Air Ops. Anyone hiking in the area at the time of Kwong's disappearance with relevant information is asked to please contact the Inyo County Sheriff's Dispatch at 760-878-0383, option 4.
All right, big thank you to Steve Stockton from Among the Missing for another creepy story. If you like them, just go ahead on over to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/spaced out radio, and hit subscribe today. From the missing to the mysterious, filling in for Courtney Marcassani on UFO Court as Courtney is on assignment. Here is Nicole Sackage.
That is an interplanetary flying space saucer. You have made me very angry. Very angry indeed.
All right, Nicole, it's good to have you back, and thank you for filling in for Courtney as she is on assignment on the East Coast, doing and talking to whoever she possibly can about UFOs right now.
Oh my God. You know that map in Indiana Jones movies where there's like the line where they're going to destinations and the dots? That's
Yeah.
Courtney's trip right now. And I mean, if monuments could pop up along the way, I'm sure that would happen too, like in all great explorations. But no, and I know we celebrate our friends often, maybe not as publicly as we should. But Courtney is on one of these trips where, it's so hands-on, and really to get at the information that she wants to get at, it has to be boots on the ground, face on face, or face to face, I should say, not face on face. That's a different meeting. But you know what I mean? Like, this is so exciting. I'm excited for her. And that's why I'm delirious at 1:00 in the morning covering the UFO report. Like,
I don't blame you. She is magnificent with what she does. She's a real trooper.
right.
I think that's a key word to put it. She is a real trooper who doesn't stop. She wants that information. She wants that story. She wants to be a person who is making a difference. And so when she goes out on assignment, I think it's something that we all have to kind of respect in regards to what she is doing, and the news that she is breaking. And I think right now there's very few being able to do what she does.
I agree. Like this is top level stuff. I mean, and honestly, we talk about access, and some people talk about clubs or friend groups or alliances or things like that. Courtney's an independent researcher. She does have friends. I'm one of her friends. Grant's one of her friends. So are you. She's got a lot of people in her audience that she's friends with. And so it's just nice when we hear about all this angst in our community to see that a bunch of people are really aligning up behind Courtney and the work that she's doing. And it's not just the UFO reporting. She has this whole other side to her academic life, that she's in pursuit of as well. So it's kind of great that both worlds can kind of collide in this. And yeah.
I agree. A lot of times, Nicole, we talk about the negative side of ufology that's
Mhm.
going on lately because is a lot of politics and a lot of rhetoric that is going on within the community from the pro to the con when it comes to the disclosure movement. But one of the things we haven't talked about in a long, long time is who is really making a difference. Maybe not just on the political side of things and making moves towards any sort of disclosure or confirmation, but who is making moves within the community, talking about the experiences people are having, talking about, the reports of everything from ET abduction to UFO landings and potential crash retrievals. Who would be let me add it to you. Who would be your top 3, maybe top 5?
Of do-gooders in the community or activism. Well, I mean, obviously there's like the what I call the Lou crew, and people support that hydra head of disclosure. And there is a lot of good activism happening in that, and that's the political world I think you're talking about. But then there are these pockets that aren't really known throughout the community because they're not seeking celebrity or fame or notoriety. They're just trying to do solid work. And that's where you hear of like these groups working out of Harvard. I can't say they're an official group, but there's interested parties in Harvard that are doing interesting work with experiencers. The same out at MIT. We've discussed our friend Michael Masters, and who the university he's affiliated with. I think he's trying to pursue this avenue through his academic world. But there's pitfalls in that too. We discussed this kind of earlier today, just sort of that cycle of how to get things done in academia and how to break in with something that's so fringe. That's going to be something we have to tackle in the future. So I brought up Harvard and MIT. There's obviously some work, like I know controversial Jack Sarfati, he's affiliated with people that work out of the Lawrence Livermore Foundation, and some interesting work going on there. So there are pockets, and there are plenty of independent people as well, like our friend Chase Williams, who has started Paradox, which is sort of this AI eating machine of all things paranormal. And so hopefully it'll be a resource and a database that every researcher can turn to. There are projects like that happening. More locally, like state to state, there's probably, if not a MUFON chapter, some sort of UFO group or paranormal group that is doing boots on the ground work. Everybody over the last couple of years has made a big deal about another controversial person, Jerry, what's his name? McGowan. I always call him by his last name. But whatever McGowan and his Osiris mobile that Lou Elizondo sort of named, and then everybody had a falling out, and UAPX is whatever now. But there are other UFO groups and people out there that have vehicles like the Osiris and do boots on the ground research and have mobile labs. You know, our friend Jimmy Blanchett, who has his amazing antenna array that he sends messages to our space brothers with. And he does that for CE5 groups or contactees that are trying to send messages. You know, that's crazy interesting to me. And then there's always like individual researcher work. You know, they're working on cases. Like Gary Osborne is continuing to work on the Rendlesham Enigma and that code. And that's just amazing in itself. You know, I love that case and I think it's unfolding, but that also leads us to time travel.
Oh, it leads us down a bunch of ways. But what about, over the last 7 years, there's been a lot of people from old school ufology that, are still trying to remain relevant.
Mhm.
Our your mentor and my mentor, Grant Cameron, I think we could consider on that. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are, about the old school ufology. Is there still a place for old school ufology?
I do. Which is, it's funny you brought up Grant tonight. I mean, I know we talk about him often, but I was listening to an old Eric Davis recording kind of describing his relationship with Grant. And he was like, yeah, we used to be friends. He's a researcher, but he's not into that wooey stuff. He's known for his work on with the presidents and digging into documents. And I was like, wow, this was like pre-Grant before he went consciousness, you know, and before he had his download. And so, you know, I guess a nice way to say it is there is a place for old school researchers. I've seen a lot of them evolve like Grant. And even the ones who haven't really done the 180 and give up like just their nuts and bolts research. So many of them have spoken to me over the years and gone, I didn't understand Grant at first. And now, after X amount of time, I see what he's doing and I reflect on that. And now I get it. It's like one of those things that has to click. Sometimes I laugh and I think these lessons come with age, you know? And some people who have been in it very long, they toe their line and they stick to the history and they stick to cases and they stick to comparing those over the years and making sure facts remain straight throughout. And yeah, I think those people will always be useful. Like our friend Keith Basterfield and his blog is such an amazing resource. You know, he's consistently tracked various topics. I think he remains neutral in how he blogs about it. He puts out information and yeah, it's there. It's solid. It's vetted. It's checked. You can source it and it's amazing. I think people like Keith, people like Tom Widmore, they're always going to have a place in our community.
I love it. And I think there's a real place for them too, because the wild, wild west that has become ufology still needs those long-term mentors out there
Mhm.
who are still willing to dig in the trenches and be used as an example of how to build contacts, build information. I
Right.
realize everybody wants to rush, rush, rush right now to try and get things out, but this is a long, as everybody has said, this isn't a fast process. This is a long-term process.
Right.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I think that's what kind of, pushes a lot of people forward. And I just really appreciate the old school voices of it all.
And I'll say this, like maybe 8 years ago, when I started going to bigger UFO group functions, and what I thought was so funny is people would come up to me and others I would bring with me, and they would be like, "Oh my gosh, we're so glad to have you younger people interested in this. You know, you're going to carry this into the future. You know, it's great to have you here." And I'm like almost 40 and you're saying like I'm a younger person in this. I'm like, where are the 20 somethings? Which they're there, but they're online. You know, it's still people like in the 30, 40s that are starting to go into groups where maybe people in their 50s, 60s, and 70s have already established these groups and have been going for a long time. So I can see this trend of generations coming in and how they're utilizing the community and what they feel like is their community. I think the 20 somethings right now really feel like the Twitterverse and online social media is their ufology community. That's how they connect with people. And we're starting to see that in some instances get better than just the social media attacks, but I like visiting groups. That's what I was meaning with Courtney doing like the one-on-one FaceTime with sources. If you go into ufology groups, whether it's a MUFON group or a private group or whatever, and meet the people that are experiencing this stuff and talking about it or presenting and giving lectures, like, it's a different experience. It's different than online ufology. And those torches are being passed. You're seeing the people coming in, wanting to get involved with those groups, lend their expertise and their background and their time. That's what it is a lot of time. They're donating their time to what they're interested in to try to make it better. And that doesn't get celebrated enough at all in our community. So.
And I agree with you on that one. And there's a lot of great researchers out there who still haven't been tainted by the old mighty dollar. In disclosure for dollars, there's still people out there who have fun doing this, who are very concerned about the people, especially who are being affected by UFO sightings and or any type of abduction or paranormal, supernatural type experiences. And I think it's absolutely great that we can actually get into that conversation.
I think it's great too. It's starting. That's what I would say with you were talking about. Is there a place for old school ufology? What I've discovered is that this new generation that's mostly online and the older generation, they are online. They are accessible. It's just, and I don't know anybody of the older generation that doesn't take the time to talk to somebody like me or younger. Like, I've bugged enough people over the years that I think that's where a lot of people just really don't realize, like, if they're curious and these people are online and accessible, whether it's me or you or Grant, or I mentioned Keith, and Tom even, I've never hit these walls of people that won't at least answer your question that you present to them if you're, courteous and nice about your approach, I guess, or a professional in how you're asking, or just have courtesy. So I would say take advantage of that. Grant, I had to bug for 3 months before he ever returned anything that I said to him. And that's what I do that with a lot of people. It's like, if I bug you 3 times and I never hear back from you, then I might wait another year before I bug you again. But I usually don't stop until I get the F off, F off, you crazy lady. It's never happened, by the way.
No, it never happens whatsoever, does it?
No,
Never.
honestly, it hasn't. I've been not answered and ignored, but I've never been told to F off.
Well, you know what? We hope you don't. We hope you don't. We got just under a minute here to go before we go to the break at the bottom of the hour. UFO court being run tonight by Nicole Sackich. Courtney Marcassani is on assignment. When we return from the break, Nicole, I don't know about you, but I have seen a real change in Enigma Labs online.
Ooh.
All of a sudden, they've opened up their Twitter account, and you're actually allowed to respond now. I want to talk about that because I think that's actually important. And, Enigma started off as an enigma. And I think the namesake was very, very apropos to what they were doing. They're controversial. And we're going to get into that next on Spaced Out Radio with Nicole Sackich, filling in for Courtney Marcassani on UFO Court. My name is Dave Scott. We will be right back. Stay tuned, everybody.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
That's one of my favorite guitar solos ever.
What were we were talking about electric guitar solos. And then the next morning, I was listening to music, and I don't listen to country music very often, but this, oh, who sings it? Clint Black, Like the Rain, came on. And that was kind of when country first started going a little rock, and there was a lot of electric guitar used at that time in country music. And there's a pretty awesome one in that. I almost sent it to you. I was like, oh, country guitar solo. I know you'd like flip out in the middle of your day. You'd be like, what? Sliding in Enigma. It's like the only file I didn't grab tonight before the show. Like, what could we possibly talk about?
Oh, I'll lead the way.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a couple weeks since we've discussed Enigma, is all I'm meaning. So are you finally getting to what I was talking to you about 3 weeks ago?
Well, some of us are a tad behind, but that's okay.
I just always put pins in things. I'm like, this is going to come up. I did notice. Yeah, I'll save it. I'll save it.
Just say
How was R Keith tonight? I was gonna try to jump in early and be like,
R Keith was amazing as per usual.
Yeah.
Hi, Juliana McGill. How are you? Only live concert she ever seen was Clint Black.
See, it was Like the Rain. I love that song. It's good.
You know what I want to do one day? I want to go to an outdoor concert when it's raining during the concert.
I've experienced that, and it's terrible.
I think it'd be awesome.
No,
Maybe
it's not. You're surrounded by people, and it's raining and muddy and shitty. And
Love it.
if you're in your 20s and you're on a bunch of drugs, it might be acceptable, or have had a little too much to drink. But when you're like a responsible adult and you get caught in the rain, like, no, that's not fun.
Hi, Deborah.
If you're not at Burning Man, then you don't need to be caught in the rain.
Yeah,
every concert I've been to has been outside.
I want to go to. I would like to go to Burning Man. I've never been.
2027, I think, is the year
to go to Burning Man.
Well, I mean, every year people want to go, but every once in a while you hear about packs of people going, and you have to plan that like a year or two in advance. It's not just like, hey, I'm going to go to Burning Man this year. So
I'd still want to go. It's on my list.
I'd want to go, but I'd want to like glamping style, Yeah. I want to build the big thing. I want to build a big thing if I'm going to go co-create some art. I'll talk to Joe about that, like when I want to go. Joe Buckman. So,
Jeremy Jones, how you doing? Good to see you. Yeah, I'd like to go to Burning Man.
I want to go, but not for fun. I want to go to kind of document various people's experience as they experience it.
I used to know this couple that were married, and they both, when they were going down one time, they got stopped at customs, and they opened up. It was a lesbian couple, and
stop your story. Stop your story.
Yeah, they got their bags checked. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
It was one of those. Ooh, close the doors, zip it back up, And this lady is a doctor, and she was like, "I've never been more embarrassed in my life than having the TSA open up my suitcase at that point." Right? Tokeland, how you doing? Sweet Robert, thanks for coming on in.
I think, yeah, You just got to own your life at some point. So
Oh, yeah.
if that's embarrassing, you'll get through it.
All right. Thank you, Deborah Rooney, Dave with a hat trick, Kira, Rough, Ready, Hectic, and Puck Elf for the super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. And don't forget, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. So make sure you go check it on out. The only thing I want is once you get something, take a picture of it. Just take that photo and go from there. So that way we can show it off for you. Here we go, everyone. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. All right, let us say that we want to remind you of something. Just a little ditty of reminder here. All right, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. This show is always on every major podcast network as well. Just hit subscribe and ring the bell and hit the follow, whatever it is. Give us a good rating. That's all we ask. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. We continue on with Nicole Sackage filling in for Courtney Marcassani on the UFO Court. Nicole, thank you for being here. Hold on. There we go. All right. Your microphone is on mute. You might.
That's okay. Thanks, Space Travelers.
Yeah, it usually helps when you have your microphone on. Enigma Labs. This is a highly controversial UFO reporting site who says that they don't have military contracts, but seem to be tied to every military and space agency that the United States has. And we know that their director, the head of the group, her name is Alice. She doesn't like giving her last name. She doesn't like being out in public, doesn't want people knowing who she is. And for a while there, they were taking a lot of heat. Why? Well, number one, like saying you're not involved with government contracts, yet you're invited to all these government agencies and to NASA conferences when you've only been in the field as a public entity for a few months, even though the company's been around for a couple of years. And on social media, they didn't like responses. They literally shut down their Twitter account, begging for experiencers, begging for emails, phone calls, reports. But when you asked them anything on Twitter or X, they would shut it down. You couldn't even reply to it. But this has all changed. This is all going different. And we know their former PR person in Alejandro Rojas has been moved into a different department within the community. And it seems like they have a new PR person there now who actually wants to engage the UFO world. Is this good? Is this bad, Nicole? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's bad, honestly. They have caught a lot of flack or a lot of heat. We brought some of that heat, I think. So I think it's only fair to explain a little bit of that it seems like newer groups that emerge want to stand out from the rest of the community. And whatever those reasons are for that, some of them are good. A lot of it is the privacy. And that's what I've sort of dug around on. It is kind of scandalous and nefarious when there are high-profile people attached to it, and you can dig around on them, and they're always controversial, is what I'm going to say. What I haven't been able to find is necessarily bad intentions. I don't think any of the actors that I've come across seem nefarious like that. I think their interest is genuine. I think the resources they want to bring to the topic are genuine. It's just, I think the places that they have reached out in the public community, like with Rojas, he's also a little controversial in the community. And the job he was given, I don't want to say he was doing a bad job, but I think with any new groups, people take on multiple tasks. And I think they brought in Rojas, and he was doing jobs that necessarily he's not qualified to do. And so now they've brought in somebody who is more proficient in like social media management, is what's happened. And I mean, like him or hate him, Rojas does have a grasp on like the history of cases in our community and has a network of people that he can check things out with. You know, that's a positive for them. Does he handle all his people interactions within the community the greatest? Probably not. But that's maybe an area he can improve on. So maybe if he's not doing jobs that are outside of his wheelhouse, maybe he can improve at what he is good at. So I'll give him that benefit of the doubt. But I'm still really waiting for Enigma to have a bigger presence themselves. So maybe that's the next step we're going to see. Like right now, it's just so much of what other people are saying about them. It would be nice to have like that full-blown representation happening and explain some of the enigma around Enigma, you know. And yeah,
I'm going to disagree with a couple of points that you made, because I thought you
Okay.
made a lot of good points there. But number one, Enigma Labs, from what I have learned, has been caught numerous times claiming reports of their own that people have given them. Yet they have been MUFON reports or other UFO reporting sites where they've kind of piggybacked off them, taking the reports and using them and promoting them as their own. I don't like that kind of game. I really don't.
well,
Okay.
I think I guess how to sort that out is they are rebranding data and cases under Enigma umbrella. And they are cases that are from other known sources like MUFON or databases that they've collected. So
Yes.
are they, I mean, which is good. If you go back and revisit a case and have new resources to apply to that case, that's a good thing. It's like looking at a cold case. You know what I mean? Like cold case from the 80s, you're not going to have the right kind of forensics to catch the DNA sample that isn't in a DNA databank yet. Look at it in the 90s, that's improved. Same thing, like Enigma is bringing cross data to the table. So if they can take an older case and cross-reference it with other data they have to corroborate something, that's what they're doing and that's what they're putting out. So, or that's what they're at least claiming and alleging. At this point, they haven't backed up like their continuation, I don't think. Like,
no.
Other case, they said, you know, MUFON did this case, we explored into it. They've rebranded it under their Enigma umbrella, but we don't know what they necessarily added to it. You know, was it satellite confirmation? Was it a blue-black SAT program that's become known? Like, they haven't added that. So
I think they are just trying, and I apologize for cutting you off there. I think that they are just trying to add to their database for the sake that they aren't getting a lot of cases sent to them. And, you know, at one point they were public saying they had over 500,000 cases on their database. Then that number went down to 300,000. Then it went down to 150,000. Then it went down again. Well, there just seems to be a lot of story time in regards to this UFO reporting group. And that's what I don't appreciate.
Is that data that they've tried to correlate and it gets knocked out of contention because there isn't data to cross-reference? That could be it.
We don't know. Okay. But the other thing too is when you and I thought you made a good point here. When you hire people to do positions that they are not qualified for, that always, it seems to be a failure. And we all know in the UFO community that the PR for many groups has always been very tough because not a lot of people have a media background, including Alejandro Rojas, who's never worked in media before. And so that's a tough point to get to. It's a tough job because you have to be able to continue to promote multiple times a day. And if you don't have time for it, or if you're being overextended, it doesn't work.
Right. And I guess maybe what I would say to finish that, would be, I don't think it was they hired Alejandro to do this and he couldn't do the job. I think it was, this is still new and he agreed to take on more work in that capacity. And where they've found maybe a pitfall is this social media aspect. Like even yourself in media, you have that background, but you're not necessarily your social media expert. You know
Oh,
what I
100%.
mean? So, and that's
100%.
where I mean, like, Rojas has this social media presence, but does he really know how to micromanage that and promote something and, create that sort of, professional job position? I don't think he has that in his background. So maybe this was just
No.
overwhelming to him. So maybe with this new position, these things will get better. We've already
Right.
seen him open that context up so we could at least comment. And that's a
Yeah.
big step,
Absolutely. But here's my thought, and I don't mean this as a shot against Rojas or anything like that. I've never met the man. But this is also a gentleman too who has claimed to be a journalist in the UFO field, has never worked a day in journalism in his life. And so to me that's a red flag, but that's for another conversation for another day. What I do
Well,
want to
that's where I get to the defense a little bit and go, but I'm just a cook.
no,
People have slammed
never,
my labels or what I am or what
you,
other people call me. And
you've never lied on your resume, your UFO resume, about who you are.
no, I mean, I've never had to fill out a UFO resume, but
You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying.
right.
Yeah. So anyways, one thing I will say that a lot of these groups do, whether it was the To the Stars Academy or Enigma Labs, is they want to play in the UFO world, but they want nothing to do with ufology. That seemed to
Right.
be a real downfall for the TTSA after year number 3, because they were getting pressure from all over the place. And Tom DeLonge's media person, Kelly, his sister, was refusing interviews with people in ufology, including this show. We learned that from Lou Elizondo when he talked to me publicly about it, that he didn't know. He didn't know there were all these requests. And most PR people, that's their job, to deflect. But that being said, we see Enigma Labs kind of going down that same road where they want to play in UFOs, but they want nothing to do with the UFO community. And I don't understand why these people would absolutely put a knife in those who are trying to support them.
I think it's more of what I said a little earlier. It's trying to set yourself apart from our standard or our normal or mainstream, if we have a mainstream side of our community. That's what I think the intention is. And it is a pitfall. I think when you close yourself off to the support of the community, it's just so offensive to our sensitive community right from the beginning. So, but what I've also heard is that might not necessarily be the case. I hear that the people involved with Enigma do have circles of ufologists around them. I'm just kind of assuming that maybe they all know how to keep their mouth shut a little more than the average person in our community, and that
Could
may be because they have goals and a timeline set of when they do want to become more public. And if they're getting positive feedback maybe or negative feedback, because we did talk about that the last time I filled in, kind of in the spirit of Kirkpatrick, and if he was getting, harassed or whatever, like that's serious stuff, whether it's somebody like Kirkpatrick or these people behind Enigma. I mean, look at who we've known who's come and gone from MUFON's board of directors over the years, or just even, their state or chapter group leads,
Oh, I hear you.
they can, that they get harassed too and they catch flack, MUFON Texas is too woo, all the drama, there's just, yeah.
I hear you.
would say if you're throwing enough money behind an organization as big as Enigma and wanting to make such a splash, then you really need to own it. Have your figurehead, have that face person, decide who it is, and then you'll get the support,
Agreed.
So,
Agreed. Let's hope with that big budget that they have that they can find the UFO smarts to do that, because they need a voice who's going to be one with the UFO community and one with the government community, which
yeah.
is going to be beneficial for them. Speaking of MUFON, because you brought MUFON up a couple of times, I have an update for us on
Oh,
their hacking scandal of their website and MUFON
huh.
Canada's website. Because we follow up our stories here on Spaced Out Radio, and we were the one to break that story that MUFON's website, along with MUFON Canada's website, had been hacked, and that they were, going under a lot of pressure to try and get that back. Well, my sources within MUFON have stated that it looks like they will be back up and running next week, taking reports, and the majority of the database is back. There's a few issues going on. There is nothing that field investigators right now, MUFON, do not know about what's going on. They've been fully updated, which I think is excellent, because you want to keep your people in the know of what is happening. There was no ransomware attack on the website, according to MUFON's IT director. And the really cool part about it is they're getting back into business. Now, the original server is still locked. They still cannot get in there, but it's not going to affect their business any longer. And they're going to be back being able to do what they do best, which is very good. And unfortunately, though, even though there is a police investigation going on with this, they still do not know who the hacker was.
That honestly, I mean, somebody somewhere investigating might know more, but with my own cybersecurity issue that I had last year, I was on the phone with Illinois Cybersecurity, which is FBI, for hours, and they weren't able to tell me anything of comfort. They were able to tell me 2 regions where they thought this hacker was hacking out of, and that was as far as I got with my own personal case. So I can only imagine some investigation on this MUFON level, a business level, so it's interesting. So we'll keep following that, right?
Well, we're going to,
Yeah.
that's what we need to do.
Do
But
they have new security measures in place?
that I just got a quick message from a couple of my sources just confirming that they're going to be up and running and that the IT guy has everything set up, because they've been down for a couple of months now since the original hacking scandal. And
Yeah, I didn't realize they were still down, honestly.
yeah, so
Wow.
they've pretty much had to rebuild everything, which is pretty incredible, because MUFON does rely on donations, and they don't have a lot of salary for people to do their job, and it's a lot of volunteer work. And their IT guy, who according to Earl Gray, who's from MUFON California, SoCal, says he's just one of the great guys out there that you need on your team to get it done. And this guy apparently has been able to work on this and get it done as best as he can.
That's just crazy. It really is. I mean, I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't understand it. Like, I mean, unless you just want all of their data at once, like, why wouldn't you just become a member and go through their files? Unless you're wanting the redacted, like, information, people's names, that sort of stuff. That's what I don't like.
Well, the one thing that I think they're pretty confident in is no personal information was stolen,
Oh,
which
good.
I think is great.
Good. They need to really sound that, because I know a lot of people are concerned with that aspect of it. As you are when anything gets hacked, it's your personal information. Nobody really cares that they saw your green orb in the sky, but they might care about your name and your location. That's off-putting.
Right? That's very off-putting in regards to it. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. We got about 1 minute to go here on the UFO report. Quickly, what are we missing? What do we miss?
I think Christopher Mellon made some interesting tweets that I need to follow up on. So we might have missed that.
Yeah, Christopher Mellon. When you think he's silent, he speaks up again.
Right.
He's like that UFO wizard who just comes in and says something really profound and then disappears again for another 2-3 months. The guy is just incredible. He really is. And I think it's great. No news out of Canada now. Everybody seems to be silent. We're in a silent stage.
Well, I wanted to ask what was the Australian report like? You had Grant Levac on, right?
Yeah, and they are being silent as well. Nobody's talking. And Nicole, we got to run here, but thank you so much for filling in for Courtney on the UFO Court. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up. Guitar God himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, and on X. Hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night.
Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. The seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Hot damn, I love that song. It's perfect. It's perfect.
It needs more guitar solos.
Yeah.
I'm teasing.
I know. It needs more cowbell.
Oh, that's the best instrument I play is cowbell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Like Night at the Roxbury. Like I could definitely play the cowbell.
Mm-hmm.
The Butabi brothers.
The Butabes.
Yep, I pretty much went to high school with them.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. Red Cap Goblin, welcome to SOR chat. Oh, yes.
We had some interesting people in the chat tonight. I was trying to read and talk at the same time, but I wasn't that good at it tonight. What else did I want to bring up now that the show's over?
I don't know. You tell me.
Mm,
I thought it was a nice, smooth show.
it was. It was. Well, you know, I mean, there's just gossipy stuff. I don't really want to gossip.
No.
Nah.
Tired of that. Tired of that.
Grant's in Vancouver.
Is he?
Mm-hmm.
I should drive down there and see him.
Probably. Why not?
I'm just going to call him and say, hey, I'm on my way.
He'd probably love that.
Oh, you know he would.
Mm-hmm.
You know he totally would. It's Grant.
Courtney drove like an hour out of her way just to spend the night with me.
I know.
It was so awesome. Honestly, we covered so much in 12 hours. It was ridiculous.
I'm a little jealous I wasn't there. I'm just hanging out in northern British Columbia, twiddling my thumbs, doing nothing. I'm all alone up here in the wilderness.
Well, you know, Courtney's not the only one. There's some other people in our extended friend circle or acquaintance circle that are planning these trips, which I think is exciting, to where they collaborate face to face with people. Like, that's where real work happens, I think. So,
Heck yeah.
mm-hmm.
Heck yeah.
Oh, how about give me a Reno report? How are
Reno
those swag bags?
Well, the people got 5 days. 5 days to get their info at space, to get their stuff into this info. I can't talk. Get their stuff into info@spacedoutradio.com. That's info@spacedoutradio.com. So that way we can start prepping the bags. Mm-hmm. They'll find out when they get there what they get.
I've never been disappointed in the swag bags, honestly. So
Swag bags are good.
it is. Give me a minute. I'll be right back. I have to let Evil Buster inside before he wakes up my neighbors.
Say hi to Busterino for us. See what I did there? Talking Reno, and I called her dog Busterino.
Oh, I know what we could maybe talk about that's been coming up. Not a lot, but you know how these things circle back around. Secret space program.
It's getting strong. Hearing a lot of people talk about that. It's like the cryptid community. Everybody's talking little people right now.
Right? Who did you have on a few days ago, or maybe last week? And I was laughing because they were talking about gnomes. And on my family crest, there's gnome hats that are being like ran through with broadswords. So I'm pretty sure sackages are gnome slayers. Just saying.
Oh, you're a gnome slayer. Look at you. Look at you. Hold on, I have to see if my edit was good.
Dave Scott.
Yep, that was awesome. So what are you hearing about the SSP?
Well, honestly, the rumblings that have been over like the last 6 months and disclosure and what could be, coming out in the future, and talking about like secret blue book or secret program names. And that's where like it first started coming up for me. It's like these elements of what could be, what some might say is real secret space program versus like the mythology in our community of the secret space program. And so I find that an interesting parallel when we also overlay that with, I mean, we've heard that there's several whistleblowers like in the rank and file, like ready to come out. And we're hearing whispers of maybe some elements of their experiences. And it's making people talk and speculate. And it's also making others come together like experiencers do and kind of compare their notes. And so that's where I find like these interesting little snippets. It's like, wow, are we really talking about like that? And I know it's been brought up several times, just like Serpo might come out. And Serpo had a real name. It was like, what was it? Crystal Knight, Project Crystal Knight. And not that that's true or that people believe that that's what we're going to get as disclosure, but I think there's a lot of speculation surrounding elements or pieces of that and what could be true. Like
Right.
the communications, like some sort of exchange of information and or people and or technology. It's just these little snippets. So that's what I'm following. And yeah, I told you the other day that the weird desk was even weird for the weird desk.
Mhm.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. A lot of that at the weird desk. So,
Well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because to me, the secret space program is wild, man. It is completely wild, and to me, it's the best story out there. You imagine if these TR-3Bs are actually American made and flying to the place like the moon or wherever.
yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking about the first secret space program person that contacted me way back in the day. And it was like a similar, I've heard elements of this person's story from other researchers, I guess, or other cases. And I just always think back to that. And I'm like, wow, if that was really true, because there's always that, do you really believe what this person's sharing with me or not? Like, so yeah. Have you had, I know our friend Lorian Fenton has a lot of these people that have come forward to her over the years. Have you had SSP people come to you?
I've talked to them afterwards, but I've never had them directly. Pardon me. Um, two, two. One recently, and one about a year ago. But no, I mean, I've had people come up to me and say, "Hey, I am part of the secret space program," but they've never really gone over that. I've had people try to pull the wool over my eyes regarding that story. And once you do a little bit of digging, I mean, you do it enough, you know where the BS is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's, I mean, it's usually you find the details that you like aren't shared publicly. It's the stuff that you hear in these sidebars that you can connect the dots with other people. And what what's happened to me recently, I would say, in this aspect is not the people themselves, but maybe their children or grandchildren that are trying to piece together aspects of their family's life. And when they bring forward details and share that sort of like family history stuff with you, that it's a lot to unpack. And it's a lot more than just like one person's like career, you know. It brings that full level like detective mystery to it.
Right.
Yeah. So I like that. I don't know. I like helping people if I can.
Me too. You know, I think though that the way the secret space program was tainted by a couple of individuals, I think it's going to be tough to get that reputation back of its existence because people took advantage of it.
Right. Well, and that's where, you know, the real secret space program, and then there's like a community mythology along with it. And it's a lot to unpack. And people are turned off by it. They have been for a while now. So that's why I think it's kind of interesting that there's a resurgence. And it's not from the mythology side of the community, you know, it's elsewhere. That's what I find it interesting. I think who I'm speaking to, it's not people who've been in our community and public and fighting the good fight for 30 years. It's, you know, newer people than that.
I would agree. Nicole, it's that time of the night where we say goodnight to everybody. So I'm going to say hello and thank you to everyone who gave us super chats tonight, including Aloha Dave with 3, Deb, and who else am I missing here? Deborah Rooney, Rough Ready with 2, Kira, Hectic, Puck Elf. Thank you very much, guys. It really helps out what we do on a nightly basis. It makes our job easier. Thank you to all our new subscribers. Thank you for everyone. Don't forget this weekend, Sweet Robbie G has the intel, and he's got the big interview coming up, on Sunday with Dirty Filth. Dirty Filth.
I had to get a hold of our friend Phil. Actually, we were chatting, but a long time ago, Phil promised me I could have his first interview.
Uh-oh.
And he gave it to Rob. And honestly, I'm so glad it's with Rob. I know way too much about Dirty Filth at this point that I wouldn't know what he wouldn't want said publicly. So I already promised I'd be in the audience. So, yep, that's my weekend plans is Filthy's first interview. I'm excited. I've wanted him to do it for a long time. So,
yeah, it's very good. Very good. All right, my friends, you all take care, and we'll talk to you on what's that day called? Monday, where my guest will be Winnie Schrader, the wife of Dave Schrader. We're talking tarot, intuition, and many other things that will come up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Nicole, thank you very much. And don't forget Jessica Jones right before Sweet Robbie G on Sunday night, right here on Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.